the unsinkable Molly Brown.
I know.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, that's a tease for a program on the 29th of this month, Saturday. She'll be at the Liberty branch and the Delaware branch.
And the Delaware branch.
And then Agatha Christie.
I know.
That's amazing. I'm so
She
excited.
was so much fun just to listen to talk about her research that, like, get there, people, get there.
Yeah. I love seeing history come alive. It's a good time.
Agreed.
All right. Well, we cannot delay any further. This morning we have in the studio with us Miss Kelsey Fox. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
And Kelsey was just refreshing me on all of her titles as we were getting ready to go on air. She is employed by the United Way of Delaware County as the Director of Housing and Community Solutions, but you also wear the hat as the president of the
Delaware County Housing Alliance.
There it is. I didn't see, if you look at my notes, I got Delco, and that's all. So, Housing Alliance. There we go. But we're going to talk about a community. Oh my gosh, all my words just escaped me this morning. The caffeine at the Strand Theater.
Caffeine.
Yeah.
Meaningful movies. It's that time again.
Exactly.
We did social justice in February. They did the opioid crisis in September, and now we are talking about the housing challenge.
And, I know we're going to talk later. You got one of my favorite movies on the housing challenge that we'll discuss. Libraries may play a part in that one.
A little bit.
A little bit.
That is wonderful. As always, we will begin our show with the things that we've been reading, watching, listening to, things that you can get at the library. Anything good this week, Molly?
Oh, I've got a good one. Shout out to my sister, Julia Hinton, which, Julie, notice I gave your name Julia. Julie suggested to me this book called The Other Wes Moore, One Name, Two Fates. The chilling truth is that this story could have been mine. The tragedy of this story, that my story is, could have been his. And this is a
that
story.
The whole title?
Yeah.
That's a long title.
I know. Well, and it's written by a man named Wes Moore. And the premise of this book, it's a nonfiction, and it is it's an adult named Wes Moore who ended up being high in the military, has had this honored life, really successful, has written several things. But what Wes Moore always was sort of haunted by is reading stories in the newspaper about another person born in his neighborhood, raised very similarly, named Wes Moore. So I'm now going to try to switch this as I'm talking, and I'm going to try to say the author for the author of the book, and the other Wes Moore will refer to the other.
Okay.
The other Wes Moore ended up in prison for shooting someone. And it always haunted the author, what made the difference? And so, at one point in his life, he's living the successful life. He has to go and find out what made the difference. Their lives lined up in so many periods that it could have been his story. It was sacrifices made by his mother, but it's not that the other Wes Moore's mother wasn't giving everything. He talks about Wes Moore's story with compassion, but he also doesn't let Wes Moore off because the crime that Wes Moore committed with his brother killed people. And, he doesn't let that fact get overwhelmed by the tragedy. This story, I often think of libraries and books as a place where we can get empathy because we can read stories. This is so unlike my story. I think how lucky I've been. But yet, if there was another Molly Meyers-LaBadie somewhere, where could that have ended up? And I am one of those who Googles my name. So occasionally I look and see, and I know that I've always been haunted by there is a Molly LaBadie who died very young. And I've always wondered what happened there. So if you want to explore a story like this, may I suggest The Other Wes Moore, and we'll use the One Name, Two Fates, is just shorten it there, by Wes Moore. This is on Libby. Wes Moore himself reads this book. He's wonderful at reading it. Good. If you just are curious, it also gives you an insight into military school. One of the opportunities that happened is when the author started struggling, his mother was like, that's it. And what she had to give up to try to do that. And then how he fought and then accepted and found his way. So just know we are all one or two decisions, one or two opportunities, one or two chances from something that isn't our lives.
One of the acronyms we use at United Way when we're trying to get the message across and gain that empathy and really help people understand what work we're trying to complete is asset limited, income constrained, employed. ALICE. The ALICE household goes a little bit beyond just that 200% of the poverty line that a lot of our partners utilize for who qualifies for their services. The ALICE household actually makes up about 24% of Delaware County, nearly a quarter. And that goes a little bit farther towards that area median income and talks about who among us are one car accident, one major medical bill, one major crisis. You know, you're seeing a lot of these stats out about how many Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. That's the Alice household, right? So when we're talking about, just like Wes Moore was one decision away from a very different trajectory, our friends and neighbors, I am one major crisis away from my life looking very, very different. So a lot of the things that we're talking about with this awareness raising and the programs that we use our donations to propel are preventing our Delaware County families from being that one crisis away and being that safety net.
And what I love is this is a nonfiction. So often we'll talk about these in fictions, but this is truly a nonfiction showing somebody in the same neighborhood with the same name with very different outcomes.
Immediately put it on my TBR.
It's
Thank
an
you for
amazing book.
recommending
And
that.
Wes Moore is a really good reader. You may have heard me say before, I don't always suggest listening to books that authors read. But Wes Moore is absolutely worth it. He's got a wonderful voice, real easy to listen to. And I feel like I can feel his story happening this way too.
Good.
So
that's cool.
Recommendation. And thanks, Sister Julia.
Thank you, Julie.
I think there's some sisterly teasing happening here.
There is.
Maybe.
I adore her, though. She always gives me the best book recommendations, so I'm not going to complain.
Kelsey, is there anything recent that you've read that you wanted to tell us about this morning?
Oh, boy.
Not to put you on the spot. I know you love reading.
I've got 3 irons in the fire right now. I just finished. There is Assistant to the Villain, and then the sequel is
I need to be able to
Apprentice to the Villain.
Okay.
There it is.
Nice.
Apprentice to the Villain. And I really enjoyed that. That was my fun read. That was my fun light read. And I'm not normally a romance person, but this was just enough of it that I enjoyed it. And it's like if you put The Office in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am a romance person, so keep talking.
I enjoyed it. And my husband will tell you, I jumped up when I finally got to the payoff and said, it took a book and a half. It took a book and a half. And then I just finished that. And my fiction read now is Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. And I can't believe I haven't read it already. I'm really enjoying it. I'm only a couple of chapters in. And then my daytime learning read, and I had to pull it up because it is also too long of a title, is Just Action, How to Challenge Segregation Enacted Under the Color of Law. So this is by Leah Rothstein and Richard Rothstein. Richard Rothstein is the author of The Color of Law. And this really gets into, when we're talking about housing and zoning, how a lot of the housing crisis pieces we've come to now really got started, rooted in racism, rooting in redlining, what the suburban experiment has become, and the history of how we got here. So this is, and I'm a solutions gal.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that when we get to the films, but they needed to lay the groundwork for the history before they can get to the solutions. And this book is the solutions.
Oh, neat.
So it's a whole collection of case studies from all across the country in communities like Delaware, in larger communities and smaller communities, really talking about what's worked and what's helped propel affordable housing for those different communities. And beyond just being able to afford where you live, how to build community and how to really know and engage with your neighbors.
Yes.
Right. I love a good book. I love a good nonfiction that's full of case studies. I'm listening to one right now that's about hostage negotiation.
Ooh,
And
different direction.
I know who to call if I get taken.
Exactly. And I'll know how to use my calming voice and my radio. He calls it a late night DJ radio voice to say, what are we doing here? You know, and I'm like, oh, okay, I like this. So, no, that's a fun, and it's full of case studies. And
Wait, Mark, are you actually a hostage negotiator?
All right. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
It'll be fine. Come away. Let everybody go.
I would trust you completely. Meet me at the front door. Okay, all right. Put down the gun. Okay.
Let Nicole go. She's busy.
She's a mom.
Busy.
I love that. All right. Well, I actually, my books this week are, it's not so much about what the books are about, but it's about the type of books that they are. If you are unfamiliar, at the Delaware County District Library and any local public library, we have a lot of these books that are called Wonderbooks.
Yes.
And Wonderbooks actually read to you. So they come in lots of different formats. They're most popular in a picture book format. And so it looks just like a regular picture book, but at the very front of the book, there is like a little corner that has a bright orange play button. And whenever you turn that button on, the book actually reads to you.
So it's like books on record that I used to listen to when I was a little girl.
Teddy Ruxpin from my
Oh,
era.
my goodness.
It's a Teddy Ruxpin.
Oh, cool.
It's a books on tape. It's a
Yes.
book on record. It's any, and it has the little bling whenever you need to have the satisfactory sound to know that you need to turn your page. So these are wonderful wonder books. I have We Are All Wonders by R.J. Palacio, who wrote the book Wonder. This is a juvenile adaptation of it. I have The Little Red Fort, which is a cute little story about Ruby building her own fort. I have Everything About Lemmings, which is all about lemmings who are on an Arctic ship, and they just keep doing all the things that people tell them not to do. They say, does someone say jump? And then they all jump off the ship. They said, lemmings, we didn't say jump. Did you say jump? And then they all jump off the ship. And I have Moon, Earth's Best Friend, which this one's been a fun one to listen to because it's nonfiction.
The illustration cover is darling
The
on
art
this
is
one. The big
beautiful.
eyes. Oh, yeah.
It's very cute. It's by Stacy McAnulty, and it's illustrated by Stevie Lewis. And but it's nonfiction. Talks about the moons of the planets, and you can imagine that that's been fun, especially with that lunar eclipse that we had last week. So we talked about that. But these are really wonderful to have in your car, especially if you have little ones who want entertainment on your 15-minute drive from here to there. You go ahead and you hand them this book, and then even if they're great readers, or even if they're just learning to read, they're able to follow along and still know what's happening in front of them. I took my daughter to the library one day. We had a day off school last week. And so we popped into the library. Of course, that's what I do on my day off, is go to my place of work. And
we love that.
Of course. Why wouldn't you want to be there?
Yeah, but she checked out. But I had my kids with me, which I don't always have the opportunity to do. And so my youngest daughter checked out all of these books so that she had the power to sit and put herself,
Good taste.
put herself with some entertainment. I also, this is the sweetest story, and I'm sure she won't mind that I share. But my husband and I were putting older daughter to bed. Younger daughter was in her bed, with these books, just listening and things like that. The older daughter bedtime was taking a little bit longer. And then we kind of heard just the book, and we were like, oh, well, she's just listening to her books. We go in, and she's fallen asleep on her bed, surrounded by her books, with the one book just telling her a story. So put herself to sleep with her wonder book. It was so sweet. So yeah, that occasionally happens at my house. I won't say it's a frequent occurrence, but
While we're on children's book, may I tell you about a library moment my family had this week?
Absolutely.
My 5-year-old son, and it was a beautiful day. So we walked through. We found new art on Ohio Wesleyan's campus that we hadn't seen while we were. It was one of the first nice spring days, and we used the library's list for pre-K and kindergarten because we are transitioning from one to the other right now.
Big transition.
Found 2 books that were on our list, and then something magical happened. I believe it was Hope was working.
Uh-huh.
Hope was putting a book away called The Boring Book.
Yeah.
And my son looked at it and said, want that. Want that
Aw.
book. So we get it home, and you might know the Delaware Rotary gives away a book to the library every time someone speaks.
Yes.
This was Deanna Brandt of the Delaware Moore Mental Health and Recovery Services Board book that they dedicated in her honor. So I immediately had to take a picture and text her because I couldn't there's a celebrity in our midst.
Yes.
But that book is beautiful because it helps littles understand ADHD.
Oh,
yeah.
So the book takes you through exactly all of these boring tasks that you have to do.
Yes.
But during this journey, the little girl in the book is on, her stuffed animals or imaginary friends are distracting her and doing different, like jumping on the bed when she's trying to clean her room or brushing their teeth when they don't have any teeth and she's supposed to brush her teeth. And he loves it. We've been reading it multiple times in a row for his readathon. So that was just another magical moment at the Delaware County District Library.
And how
I love
fortuitous
that.
as well for you to just kind of like stumble upon that. And then little did you know exactly all of the things you're going to get from it.
Isn't it a wonderful thing?
It is a wonderful thing. Well, that's great. We have had such an amazing conversation already, but we do have to take a break. So we're going to do a quick commercial break, and we'll be back on the other side to continue talking with Kelsey Fox of United Way of Delaware County about meaningful movies series coming up at the Strand. Stay tuned.
That's
We're
you.
in. Oh my
Yay.
gosh. Yeah, Mark said it was we were gonna jump right in, and we sure did, and I'm here for it. So welcome back. You're listening to Off the Shelf. I'm Nicole Fowles. That's Molly Meyers-LaBadie.
Always laughing on here. I just giggle all the time, I think. That's what I add to the show. I
We've got
giggle.
Mark Bingaman on the board.
Hello.
Always keeping us on our toes, Mark.
Always.
Because I got disco balls.
That's
The
right.
disco
Well,
balls.
and now I know who I'm gonna, have call if I need negotiated out of a hostage situation. I've got this planned.
Exactly.
I love when my life falls into line.
I need a part-time job. That's cool. That's great. That's awesome. Thank you.
As if you're not busy enough. And in the studio with us this morning, we have Kelsey Fox, Director of Housing and Community Solutions for the United Way of Delaware County, also President of the Delaware County Housing Alliance. We're talking about movies with meaning this morning. The movies with meaning are about the housing challenge. And so tell us a little bit about this partnership between your organizations and the Strand Theater in Delaware.
Excellent. We have so enjoyed working with Tracy Payton at the Strand Theater. She is just a
lovely.
force. It has been wonderful. So we had come up with this idea, Beyond the Bridge, a solution to homelessness, much like the book series I was talking about, is a sequel to Under the Bridge, which is the crux of the problem.
Yeah.
It shows you what the crisis is, and Beyond the Bridge shows you exactly what we were only going to ask for Beyond the Bridge. And Tracy comes and says, we've got an idea. What if we did a meaningful movie series around housing? Just absolutely
wow.
blown away. Because the Delaware County Housing Alliance is a relatively new 501c3. It is its own separate nonprofit, but it is an initiative of United Way. So it has its own operating board, and it's an advocacy agency. The responsibility of this agency is to help people understand what the housing needs are, to move economic development, to help make a recommendation for zoning. We're working with 3 different municipalities on their zoning right now, helping advance older adults in the aging community, and making sure we do all of this in a sustainable way. Like there's transportation access and there's education access, and you can live in a place where you can walk down the street and get some food, right?
Yes.
And have community with your neighbors.
And having community with your neighbors is really what we're trying to build here.
Right.
And what the Strand has built with this series, they have really made their theater a third place.
Yeah.
I was there last night for the State of the City address. Paul Brake, city manager of Delaware, did
Yes.
a phenomenal job. There's an entire staff that just really keeps the city moving. We do serve the entire county, so we are inviting the entire county and beyond to come out because this is an issue that impacts everyone. So with that, we sat down and really started to look at which movies help us tell the story. Each of these films will feature a subject matter expert and a call to action.
Yeah.
So every single one of these, there is something amazing to do.
So what day of the week are we showing these movies? They're all in the month of April.
Every Tuesday in April, you'll be able to hear from a subject matter expert, have a call to action, get involved, and most of them begin at 7 p.m., but we do get started a little bit earlier once we get to the documentaries. So on April 29th, you're also invited out. The Salvation Army's Cassandra Meyers, who oversees their veterans program, is helping us arrange a cardboard city demonstration. So we're currently accepting volunteers to come make signs and or display signs. So we'll be doing that from 4:45 to 5:30 before folks are coming in for the film.
Okay.
So we're really excited to be doing that. And then the final date, Beyond the Bridge, A Solution to Homelessness, is our big panel. So you'll be able to see a foreword from former city manager Tom Homan and Paul Brake, our current city manager.
Nice.
Immediately followed by the film, which is incredible. The directors of this have gone all across the country, and I had the privilege of hearing them speak at a Housing Ohio conference a couple of years ago, and they have been so engaged with making sure our event is successful. This is not just, a celebrity we know over there. I met with the directors. They're phenomenal. And then afterwards, we're hosting a panel. That evening, we are going to be hearing from the experts at Delmore Dwellings, Homeport, First Commonwealth Bank, and little known fact, they have this incredible program that helps marginalized and low-income individuals have a pathway towards homeownership. So we're going to get to learn more about that.
That's great.
And we're also going to have someone from United Church Homes, who is just really driving the charge on helping older adults age gracefully. So we're going to be talking about all of these things. I'll be there moderating.
Wonderful.
And, I'm challenging myself. I'm going to actually write my questions out instead of shooting from the hip, which is normally more my style. So we'll have all of these questions prepared in advance. But it's going to be a really wonderful evening.
And the community will be able to ask questions too during the panel.
Absolutely. And we encourage it. And we'll be out tabling before all of these events. Get there early. Come talk to us. Get involved. We want more community voice, and we want people with lived experience. So we'll have some folks who have been through some of the programs we're talking about present to answer questions as well.
Well, and homelessness doesn't always look like the image you see on TV or that one idea of homelessness. So I'm guessing part of what you're trying to approach here is all the different ways homelessness can look even.
All the different ways homelessness looks, all the different demographics it impacts, and then really getting into what's the continuum of care here, right? Because we can keep putting Band-Aids on things, but what do we do to make sure people not just survive homelessness, but that they thrive, that they can move on to have safe, comfortable, meaningful lives, where we're not so focused on shelter, but we're focused on all of the things that are valuable about our friends and neighbors that haven't had the opportunity to flourish. What does flourishing look like for our friends and neighbors who have not experienced the stability to really tap into their talents and be a part of the community?
Well, and from a library perspective too, we are an open space from the day that from the moment that we open, at 10 o'clock in the morning right now until the time that we close at 7 p.m. at night. And that means that anyone can come in and use our space for anything really that they need to. And sometimes, patrons will say, oh, that person's sleeping. Well, it's okay. That person's allowed to come into our space and sleep. We try and give them that space that they need that is outside of the 20-degree weather that we have had or outside of the 100-degree weather that we're going to have, coming later this summer. So the library is something, is focused on this population as well. The other thing that people don't know is that we still have a place for people who don't have a permanent address to get a library card.
Yes.
So if you don't have a permanent address, a place that you can call home, we can still find a way so that you have materials and you have access to resources that you need. And so this is a partnership that we're also focused on at the library as well.
Because we can also help with things like resumes. So if you're trying to get that job, I have access to a computer. I have staff who can help you get those resources to be able to put together your resume, to get your application in through the online resources. We're there to help.
Oh, we're excited about some of the movies that you've got coming up. Molly,
Yes.
I know you have one in particular, but I'm going to talk about the one the week before.
Okay.
On April 1st, to kick off the month, is The Pursuit of Happiness. This movie, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it's so
Bring your
beautiful.
tissues.
Yes, it changed a lot of perspectives. It features Will Smith. And just tells a really beautiful story. But yes, you do need to bring your tissues. So that's a fun one.
And that evening, you'll get to hear from Liz Curtis with St. Vincent New Beginnings, talking about justice-involved individuals who'll be served with transitional housing once their program. And then we're also going to have Reverend Beth Geddert from Zion United Church of Christ come and do a charge and blessing with luminaries so that we can remember those who have been lost. So there'll be a moment of contemplation, and then you'll exit in contemplation with your luminary.
That's
Very nice.
And then Molly, you want to talk about the one the next week?
I'm
I
so
knew we
excited
would. I
about
knew we
the
would.
public.
Yes.
This one has Emilio Estevez in it, and this has been huge in library circles. It actually was shot here in Ohio at the Cincinnati Public Library.
It's based on a true story
It is
from Cincinnati.
And, Amelia Estevez has really gone out and tried to use this word to share with what libraries do with the homeless populations in our community. This is also Bring Your Box of Tissues. This is a beautiful story. This is, hard decisions having to be made at the time. And I think that is the emphasis that so many times we don't know what to do. There's no handbook for how to help people, and how one story has moved that forward.
Kelsey, you are just a fountain of information. We are so happy to always have you. We're at our time. So where can people go for more information if they want to learn more about the series and if they want to get involved?
Follow everybody on Facebook.
There you go.
Facebook, LinkedIn. You can go ahead and follow the Delaware County Housing Alliance. That is where most of the information is coming on. But the Strand, United Way of Delaware County, all of those groups are sharing. And one of the things I love about being with United Way of Delaware County, we have partners like the library,
You sure do.
along
Yes.
with another 40 plus of them at any given time that are really helping us get the word out. So if you are plugged in with any of the social services in Delaware County, you're going to hear about this.
I love it.
All right. Well, Kelsey, thank you for joining us this week. We look forward to the next time that we get to have you back, and we'll see what that'll be about later on this year. And Molly, thank you for always being the wonderful co-host you are and standing in last week.
And thank you, Nicole, for coming back this week. I missed you.
I missed you too. Mark, thanks for keeping us on the straight and narrow.
Yes.
You made me work last week.
I did. I really did. I'm very appreciative for Mark as well. Trust me.
Until next week, we will see you in the stacks.